What does a foreman do on a construction site? Now, I've talked about this over and over, and I love the work of foreman. By the way, I don't think I've ever said this before. I was a foreman. Only for about 6 months, 2 different times. I was a worker for a long time and have worked with foremen my entire career and have supervised their work and, for the most part, have gathered industry wisdom for these concepts. So, am I a stranger to this? Absolutely no. But have I been a foreman for 20 years? Absolutely not. But guess what? Why is this important? Because we have to support this most crucial role. And what better way than a superintendent to explain this, the #1 support, in addition to field engineers, for foremen on the job site. So if you're interested in finding out what they do day to day, stay with us. What do foremen do on a construction site? Let me go ahead and talk to you about that. First of all, let me say this. Foremen are the key. They are the glue. They are the customer-facing entity. How we treat foremen and workers is how they will treat the building, and the building is what the customer experiences in addition to how we run the site. So they are the key. A project rises and falls based on the capability of the foreman. They are everything to us, and we've got to understand how important they are and enable their work, not micromanage them, and never yell and never disrespect what they're doing. So let me go through here and talk about these one by one. #1, they supervise daily crew activities. Now, they don't just stay inside the work package inside the zone. They will be a part of the pull planning, the pre-construction meeting or the preparatory meeting, whatever you call it, look ahead planning, the weekly work planning, and the day planning, and then they will supervise, boots on the ground in the field, the work of the crew. Now, one of the biggest sins of a foreman is to be off at Home Depot. They need to be a safety and quality presence in the field with their crews. Not all the time, there is some planning there, but they definitely work with their crews in the field. #2, when they've worked with their crews, hopefully, and this is a standard, they've done what's called a crew preparation huddle. That means you've gathered the crew, you've gone over the work, you've done instruction flex, you've done some training, and then you're going to separate. Now, let me tell you, the biggest thing when it comes to foreman leading crews. The best crews I've always seen, the workers leave with a list, a checklist, a picture of a visual that the foreman has drawn. Everybody has clear instructions for the day, okay? And one of the main things that is clear is how to build in a quality and safe manner. The foreman makes sure it's all being built with quality and safety in mind. And #3, they coordinate labor and tools and materials. Oh my gosh, I have to tell this story again. I was once downtown Austin, Texas, obviously, and I remember I got a bunch of stories there, but it was at the intersection of 6th and Lamar. There was somebody that used to be on the corner there all the time that was famous, that connected with the job site. There was graffiti, artful, artistic, and commissioned graffiti on our trailers down there. We were building a Whole Foods World Headquarters with Hensel Phelps. Absolutely loved the experience. And I remember being there, and I was in charge of the columns and walls, and another field engineer was in charge of the foundations and caissons, and then the decks. And I remember talking to the rod buster at the reinforcing company, one of the foremen. I was like, why are you so much more effective than that other foreman? And he said, Jason, look at that foreman. What is he doing? And I'm like, well, he's working with his crew. What else am I supposed to see? Oh, no, really look close, Jason. Well, he's got his head down and he's tying bar. Like, what are you asking me? He's like, that's exactly right. He said, Jason, what am I doing? I'm like, well, you're craning in materials and you're giving your people, and they were all guys, so I'll say, giving his guys instructions. And he was like, that's the difference, Jason. He's always got his head below his backside. He said other words. And I am always feeding my crew with information, materials, and clear instructions. And that's why I'm always on time. That's why he's always behind. When he stops, his crew stops. And they're always waiting. Workers waiting on work. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so key. I could draw you, if I had a what do they call those sketch artists where, crime scene investigation with sketch artists. If I described that to a sketch artist, I could give an exact picture of where I was at that time. It left such an impression on me. So foremen are always feeding the crew with information, materials, equipment, and all of the resources they need. #4, I've mentioned a little bit, but they interpret drawings and specs and shop drawings for the crew. Now, should they be teaching the crew how to read them themselves? Absolutely. But interpreting that, taking this spiritual manifestation of what the building's going to be like, and helping workers translate that into a real thing, right? A temporal manifestation of that spiritual creation. That is absolutely amazing. And so foremen are plan readers. They are builders. They know how to read plans, and they come prepared having read the plans and specs. and they know how to read their company's shop drawings and translate that into verbal and visual, preferably, instructions for the crew. Number 5, they communicate with supers, field engineers, and other foremen. And I will say this is key. Let me give you an analogy. I don't think I've ever done on this YouTube channel. Maybe it's not an analogy. Maybe it's role playing. I don't know. But anyway, pretend you're a superintendent and I'm a foreman. Let's say Foreman 1, Foreman 2, right? Foreman 1 is like, hey, superintendent, can you tell this foreman to get his stuff out of the way? And then the superintendent looks to the other one and over to Foreman 2 and is like, hey, can you get your stuff out of the way? That's like working in the wrong direction. What I should be able to do is like, and anybody, if you know, you know when I say this, it's like Sam and Frodo at the end of the Lord of the Rings. Like you just got to look them in the eye, right? Like just eye to eye, even though it's uncomfortable. When I tell people to do this, this is how they do it. They're like, it's like their eyes are glued. Like they're so uncomfortable talking to another foreman. But like you've got, Foreman 1's got to turn to Foreman 2, Foreman 2's got to turn to Foreman 1, and eyeball to eyeball coordinate work from zone to zone, because most of the problems on a site can be handled foreman to foreman. I learned that in the last planner system. Don't use the emotional capital of the superintendent. The other thing is don't make the superintendent the bottleneck. Solve those problems by coordinating as a foreman, super FE, but especially foreman to foreman. Number 6, track progress and quantities. Obviously you're feeding the crew, but you need to know if they're going fast enough. And by overburdening workers or making workers go fast enough. You'll do that through creativity, through great planning, through enabling them with resources. But here's the key. As a shout out to TAC planning, if you know what your TAC zone is and your TAC time, meaning your duration and your end date for that work, you can consistently be working with the crew to prepare and hit that deadline. And I hope you're sitting down, finish the work behind. So the foreman is always planning ahead and punching behind, because if you wait for a punch list, you have 35 additional activities that you'll have to go through, and it's an incredible waste of time. So that's a main component of the responsibility here. Let me go a little bit fast. I love the rest of these, but the next one I want to talk about is leading the huddles, where you are going to train and mentor your crew members. So 100% you are a trainer, you are a professional communicator, and if you really grasp that, your whole crew will be excellent, not just you. One of the main things that you're going to do is train them to remove roadblocks. Foremen are professional roadblock removers. If here's your activity inside the zone for your work package, you're out here in the pull plan, the prep meeting, in the look ahead plan, the weekly work plan, the daily foreman huddle, trying to see and remove roadblocks before they happen. So you are a professional roadblock remover. And then the last main one that I want to mention that is really the core, it probably should have been number 1. Oops, but we already recorded the video. I hope you liked it by now and subscribed to the channel. But clean, safe, and organized. A good crew is a clean crew. A good foreman is a clean foreman. A good worker is a clean worker. Clean, safe, organized, beautifully all the time will really be a core responsibility in your job as foreman. And so these are the things that a foreman does on a construction site. I'm going to put that on a nice checklist on Canva for you, turn this into a blog post like we always do. Oh, and I'll also remind you that we have a book called Elevating Construction Foreman, also titled Elevating Construction Crew Leaders. That is in English and in Spanish, and it's on audio, and I read it for free on the podcast. And so if you want those resources, oh my gosh, we also have crew leader commandments. I'm going to put all of that in the description below. And my invitation is please use those, because this is the job of a foreman on site. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.